All right. Um, so no other questions about queries at all? All right. So, let me tell you a funny story from last night. As I took an exam from one of my classes. In Python, you can bring in a SQL library, SQL, not SQL library, SQL database, uh, in which case you are able to do queries on. And I had so much fun doing that. Um, and I had to do things in uh, had to do the queries in SQL. And if you may recall, I'll just pick one of these very quickly. We could go to SQL view on these queries, and this actually tells you exactly what it will look like in SQL. So I never took a class in SQL. I think I mentioned this before. How a friend of mine that uses Microsoft Access every day, building macros for it, building these queries in this format. Um, how they learned SQL from using Access. Guess what? I took that idea and I ran with it as well. So, but in my exam I had to take yesterday, I had to do a couple of queries actually to pull data from these different databases that were online, um, that were public open databases for anyone to use and be able to manipulate and come up with and do some analysis on. But this is what I use. Like I literally went in. I was like, okay, I can't quite remember how what order something went in, and I just did a fake one in Access real quick, just something small. I didn't have to pull in the data because I couldn't, because it was like um, the data I was looking at was every state and every county in every state. So that's a lot if you think about it. So I was not going to pull all that in and wait for it to download. If Access could even hold all that data and memory, because it can't hold as much as like a actual online database for obvious reasons. Because one is on your computer, two is the type of file that's you open. But anyway, I just did this so I could figure out, all right, how do I do this query? Because I couldn't quite remember every little bit. Because there's some complications within this one. Uh, Sometimes when you want to make sure it checks by two different things, and when you want to group or order something. But anyway, I use Access to help me do that. So I just wanted to share that. It is something. Again, it's a very powerful tool, and the SQL view is important because you're able to see how's the query actually work. It should be simple enough to read too of what it's doing. So based off too, if you just go back to um, this view, it may be even easier to see what that stuff means, or even just looking at your results from where they came from. So just wanted to share that because I thought that was a little cool tidbit. And for those of you that take Python next semester, I know a couple of you are, some of you may take it in the future too, but we do go into how to pull things in from SQL. We don't actually do a full query. We do a very, very simple query in that course. But you take your skills from using Access, you go to SQL view, you can do a lot more. So you'll do a higher level query, a more complex query in this class than you will do in Python class. So all right. Um, Again, just want to share that. So moving forward, let's take a look at forms. Okay, so I showed you all before that we've done a couple, but I'll do one more here just to show. You got two types of forms that you all need to create, and there's two ways to create a form. Uh, the way I like to see it anyway. You can go to create, click on forms, and boom, it creates it by taking all of your fields and uh, stacking it columnar, so like in a straight column. Those fields names, and then here are the data for this record. And you can add new records as we saw as well, or we can make modifications to a record if we want. Okay, so that's how you create a form. And then the other way was we could create a form from design or just a blank one. Pretty much they work similar, but we're able to just pull in the fields that we want and design the layout. That's why this one's kind of off a little bit. I believe it was Ben that mentioned, yeah, but you can organize that. And I told you guys that you could organize this if you wanted to, so that these words still be stacked a little more. We also saw how to do it from the form wizard, where things they get clumped together, but you can make it justified, or you can do it so it would have been columnar like the first one, where it just like fills out this column, then it goes over here, fills out this column, then it goes over here, fills out this column, where it's just a straight data sheet, things like that. So those were the forms that we created last time, and that was the simplicity of creating a form. Now, for your assignment, and there's more here, of course, going through that with the pictures, how to add a new record and refreshing it so you can see the update and what it looks like. How it looks from the design view, how it looks from the wizard. For your assignment, you had to make two forms. Your first one was just select one of your tables, either one of your tables. If you want to create more than two forms, that's fine. But I'm looking for at least one form that's just created from your tables. So that means that it should look just like this, where it just has the field names. Notice that they're even aligned there, and then it has these text controls, text box controls next to it for you to enter in things. It's just automatically as soon as you click form, no issues. Okay, so that's one. Okay, so let's say what you would like to which to base your first form. Click on the create tab. Yeah, so anyway, I'm just kind of walking through that. Then the second part here is you're going to create another form, either from design or wizards. And I don't want it to be just stacked like that first one is, because otherwise, in my mind, did you even use the wizard or the form? And yes, I'll be able to, or design, I'll be able to tell from that. But you could have possibly created from design and just stacked it so perfectly that it looks the exact same as if you had just clicked form. That's totally possible. However, I would like for you the layout to be different from that. So you can either create it from design or wizard. It's up to you, but just don't have it just straight stacked like the other one was. If you actually use the columnar for the wizard, it won't even look the same as that one. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, that's it. Just those two forms, and then once you do that, let's actually use it. So create a brand new record. So I can go back to your previous submissions and see how many records you had initially. See if you added anything, and then look for a change in the records. I'll just compare the two databases using a script. Pretty short and simple. All right. So questions about the form assignment? In forms, again, like I said, I was going to review it. Okay. All right. Next up, we'll look at reports. So recall that a report is a very clear and like structured way to see data from your database. So it helps you kind of quickly summarize and analyze it as well. So it could be based off of a table, it could be based off a query, it could be based off of a combination of the two. But it is just is what you would know, it's what you would print out to give to someone. It would give aggregated results. When I say aggregated, I'm talking about it could give sums of columns or averages or mins and maxes or some other formula that you come up with that you need to calculate. That's the point of a report, and it just looks so much better than if you try to just print out the data sheet or if you try to print out the query. And you can organize the way it looks. So it's like if you wanted to print out, this is what I found, here are my results, this is what you would do. And then you could present on it. So that's the purpose of a report. And you'll see, similar to what we've done in all the other objects, we can literally just select the table, click report, and then it creates a report for it. So just like we did with form, we can do it from design where we build it. We can do a blank report where we build it, or we can do a report wizard where we build it, but we select what gets put in it, but it structures it for us. So we have very similar to what we did with reports. That's why I do these two in the same module area or the week area, because they are very similar. But again, it's similar still even to like what we did with Query Wizard, right? You either can do it from the wizard or you can design it straight from scratch and work your way up. But it's much closer to how we build a report. So um, when we get to a report, if you just straight up select the table and click report, what ends up happening is it looks very similar to your well, actually, it looks just like your data sheet, except the text looks like how it did in form, but it's just a data sheet of all your data. And then what it'll do is will add this little count thing at the bottom, and that's just counting the number of results you have. It'll add the name of the table up here, and it'll give a date for when you're creating this report on there. And so what we'll see is that some of you may look here or can notice here, there's this like dashed line going down. Some of you may say, oh, that looks like that thing that you see like in Excel where it says that, hey, this is going to be the cutoff for the page. You've probably seen that in other applications as well, because it can come out sometime in Word for your margin. So that's what that is there for. And that is exactly what it's doing. It's saying this is going to cut on to another page, although this says page is 1 of 1. So this will get cut off. So you may also notice that there's a lot of extra white space in some of these, like especially over here with Pokemon, the types, so on. And so if we were to eliminate some of that white space, we can get this to actually be in one page, as I end up doing here. The other thing was getting rid of this. It's pretty. It's a control on here, so you could just select it and delete it, and it would go away. Um, but yeah, here we are, and then we can change these labels if we really want to as well. But then we can create one from design. So, but let's start off with just the report one, and let's see what that looks like. So I'm actually going to do it based off, I'm going to close all these. I don't want to have too many of these open. And it's not a good idea ever to mess with a database when you have portions of it open, especially things that can be manipulated. So I have those closed. So I do have one already here, but again, I'm going to create from scratch. Let's do one from based off the types table this time. So I will do a report. As you can see, all I did was select my table and I click the report button, and boom, here we go. Everything's been made. It looks, actually, if I open up the types one, you'll see the same information, right? We have those same fields, same data. We have those same fields. I'll slide over so you can see all of it. Same data. You look at the time. Date time is for as soon as we created it. The title here is type 1. So as I said before with the other one, you'll notice that this does split into 2 pages. In fact, so, to, I'll go to page setup here. Kind of wanted you guys to at least see what it looks like if I were to try to print this. Yeah, this way. So I'm just going to right click on it and go to print preview real quick just so you guys can see. And know that I'm not just joking around about it cutting it off. It is going to see it. It cuts it off right there. Want to look at 2 pages? Here's the second one. So I'm gonna adjust this because we have this little extra white space. So to do so, I'm literally gonna go under kind of similar to what we did in Excel when we make a report. So when you make a report by just selecting that table and clicking the report button, it will create it based off of that one table. For your assignment, you will create whatever kind of report you want. Um, this is the simplest one, but you do have to get some type of analysis. Meaning you want to tell me what you can learn from this report very easily and simply, because that's the whole point of having a report, to be able to do some analysis. So yeah. Okay. So just like in Excel where you could change the column widths, we can do the same thing here. Go select this. Notice from just that alone, from just the Pokemon names, I have enough room now. If I wanted to make that even a little bigger, I could do that and things would still be within that one page. This little header for the page 1 of 1, I could even move over if I wanted to be more centered on this page. And I could shorten these up if I wanted to as well. I guess I could show that a little bit. That one. Let's do the heights because they have the base stats can only be 3 digits anyway. Okay. One other thing that is cool is that, let's say I did shorten this like this and I want it to still be kind of centered. What I could do is this. Oops. So I can move that whole kind of table almost and move it around if I wanted to as well, so things could be lined up a certain way. So as I said before, this is kind of was just like a count fill that's added here. Something else I could do to this if I wanted to is maybe I want to take the average and put it here. So I could, I could do in a design tab for reports. There's a couple. Actually, let me go through these because there's a couple things. So we can change the view like we normally could. Notice that themes is here. So you all are familiar from themes from when we looked at Word, when we looked at PowerPoint, and we looked at Excel. It's always here. So one thing you can do is you can change the theme to whatever you want. Notice how the colors change when you do so. And even when you change that, the theme pretty much sets like the colors theme, but you can even modify it from there afterwards if you'd like to. And then you have different fonts that you can change to. In the grouping and totals, you can group these. It'll be easier to see in the wizard, I think, when we look at the wizard one. But you can group these however you like and sort them as well. So if I wanted to group like height and weight, then I could say I'm going to sort it by height then weight. So in case two things are the same height, then it'll be based off the weight. But there's something else that we can do. We can take some totals. And remember, totals isn't just a sum. These are our aggregated functions I mentioned earlier. So we can count the records, the values. We can do the min, max, count, sum, and average. You also know the standard deviation or variance here, which might be new terms for some of you. But these are great ways to look at the variability or the spread or the difference from the mean on average of different values. So like, let's say I want the average base stat, I can click that and notice down here at the bottom where I said that this one gave you the total. So just the count for the number of records. Look here, by me selecting this area, then going to totals and doing average, it gave me the average base stat right there. So if I wanted to, I could even maybe type in that, oh, this is the average base stat or weight. I could do an average weight here, height, and I can say, oh, all of these are averages. I just add do something like this. And then maybe do average for all of these. Oops. Yeah. Oh, that's text. That's why. I can only do the counts for these guys. That's because of the data type. So I have to go back and make that not short text. But anyway, that's pretty much it. There are other controls that you can add. You guys can play with this if you want. If you want to add, like, insert some pictures. Like if I'm doing Pokemon, maybe I'll give Pikachu his shine right here. Make sure you get a one that is Creative Commonly licensed so that you can use it. You can insert other images to wherever you want as well. You can add header and footers. You can add a logo. There's a lot that you can do here, or things you can add on here from here. Okay. Let's see. Some other things is how you arrange it. Once again, we have things to be stacked. So it looks very similar to what we saw on a form. Tabular is what we have right now already. So it's in a table format. We can even insert other rows and columns if we want to do different things. So this is getting a little more advanced. We do have a Microsoft Access class. There's two of them actually. We go in more detail about things that you can do in Access. So if that's something, if this has been fun for you, the course is CIS 117 AM and CIS 217 AM, or sorry, CIS 117 DM for the first level, and then CIS 217 AM for the second level, of course. By the time you finish that, you will be prepared enough to take the Access exam to get certified in it. So, okay. And then basic format changes. And we saw this earlier with page setup, so how it will look when it prints out. So lots of different things that can be changed from here. So this was just us creating from just clicking on the report button under create once we select our table. So are there any questions about what we did here?
Save it, will we just change the name to like report? Or
You
does it
can,
automatically save it as a report once we save it?
so look at the title here. Just like when we did form, it automatically named it after the table that we created it based off of. But I can save it and then change that if I want to. But I'm gonna leave mine just because it makes sense because it ties back to that. But we're gonna look at doing it from the wizard, and I'll show you how to do it from design view as well, or just like if you did a blank one. And it's the same thing as always. You save it, but when you save it, you can change. You can create the name there. You can also just rename it directly by right-clicking on it and selecting rename. So if you don't like the name afterwards, you can always rename it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's create one from. I like to do the wizard first. So we'll do the wizard. And I'm going to do this based off of that battle stacks above 500 thing. So that I'm just going to go look at that. Actually, no, I can't do that. Yeah, I'll just be doing it based off the query. I want to show you guys a little more than that. So this is what I'll do. I'm going to get the Pokemon. Actually, go back. Because it's the primary on this one. I'm going to get the Pokemon's name. And then I'm going to get their, let's see, get their type. And I'll get their base stat. And I'll put their weakness over here. Okay. No, I'm not gonna do that. It's like at BMI. I think that'd be funny. So I'm just putting in some fills, just like normal, like you've seen with the wizards. You can just select the fills you want. Now we get this option to say, hey, how's this gonna look? And this is the grouping by stuff. So we can group Pokemon by their type if we want to. And then this is how it'll, by which table. So by type 1 information or by Pokemon stats information. So the reason why this is here is because remember there was a relationship created, and Pokemon type was the primary table in that, meaning that everything was connected based off of this because the primary key here was Pokemon, and that's the field that's linking these two tables. That's where they have the relationship that's forms between the two Pokemon keys. So if I do it by type 1, what it does is it will bring in that data from the Pokemon stats table, right? Because it has a connection based off of the Pokemon. It knows, oh, you have the same name. So I can put the weakness, but I also can bring in any other stuff. Similar to what you see when if I actually click on type 1, when you click that plus sign, it brings everything underneath. Or when we looked at the type 1 form, how it brought everything underneath. That's what it'll look like. If you just Pokemon stats, it just brings in each one of those fields, and that's it. There's a show me more information, which will go more in detail about what this would look like. And I could do examples, and it'll show me so if it was like this is what would happen. So those can be helpful, especially if you're not sure what something's going to look like afterwards. Look at this one. So, but in essence, it's just telling you again how it be grouping them. And this will look very similar to what we saw in the actual table and in the form, where it brought everything underneath, kind of like that plus sign thing. So there won't be a plus sign on the report. It'll just literally bring in that data underneath it. So I'm going to go with this route. That's why I selected it this way. And then we get some additional stuff. We can group Pokemon data together by certain things. So if I want to, for instance, look at things based off their type, it would put all the Pokemon of the same type together first. And so that is actually what I want to do. So I'm going to do that. And so what happens is you get each Pokemon, but it's based off their types. And if I want to, I can even up its priority, meaning we do it by type first, and then everything else comes in later. Some other things, if I change the grouping options, I can group them based off of the normal things. So they have to have all the same, they have to be the exact same. So fire and fire. I can do it by first letter. I can do it by first couple of letters. And a lot of different options here. So the reason that's there is think about if you want to do things kind of alphabetically, this would allow you to kind of do that. And also makes it easier for someone to find things in the report that way, right? If things are grouped that way. So, okay. So next thing is how do we summarize any data if we want to? We don't have to. And then how do we sort things? So I have things sorted in ascending order by, I'll do it by the base stat. So if I went back, just again real quick, we're going to group things are going to group together because they are connected. They have a relationship built. So it's going to pull all that data in together based off that relationship, which is based off the Pokemon's name being the same. But when we look at the report, everything is going to be grouped by types, by their first type. When I go over here, now I'm deciding how they will be sorted. And so I'm going to sort them by their base stats because I want all the highest base stats stuff. But then I do get other options if I want to, based off of what I just selected. I can do some aggregations here. Close to what I just showed you. So I am going to do one. I'm going to take a base stat average. Ooh, I could do percent of total sum. That's kind of cool. I never actually saw that command there, so it's kind of cool. Just learned that. I don't have to actually calculate the percent stereo. It'll do it for me. Cool. So, see, I'm still learning. All right. Anyway, I can click next here, and now we get to decide how does it actually look on the report. And I love this because you get those little spirals. Like if you're doing an actual report. I don't know if any of you ever seen like a PDF or someone doing like their dissertation or anything like that. They're bringing in these little spiral notebooks. It's crazy that the design they put into this just to give that feel. But anyway, remember things are going to be set up by type. And so while all of these are grouped by the same type, it'll actually put the type name there. And then we'll have like the Pokemon name, its weaknesses and type 2 and their base stats. but it's going to sort them in order from smallest to largest for base stats, based off of the fact we said it'll be in ascending order. So I notice it gets stepped down. That means like if things are the same, it'll only write it once, not multiple times, which in my mind always looks best. And I think that's I think Microsoft agrees. That's why they put it first. If you want it blocked, it can look nice too. So instead of getting that step down fill, if these are grouped by a type, next thing would be like the Pokemon's name. If we have two Pokemon with the same name, for instance, and then it would bring up each different possibility we have for it there. And then it would continue to do that. But this looks a lot more formal. I personally still like step because you see that change happening. Like it's as if you have like an outline, which is funny because we have a different outline format. But this is to me kind of like an outline where you're like, this is the highest level. We're looking at it by type. Now we're looking at it by the Pokemon's name. And here are the different ones we have for that. If you do an outline though, it does do that. Except it even highlights even more. Let me show you the difference there. The field names are going to go up here, that orange section here. Those are the field names. Those block and step that they're at the top. So you have to look kind of from the top to find it. Outline is not there. It goes directly above the parts where we're actually telling the differences. So that way, each time you look at a different one, you know that this is what this is. That can be very, very helpful if it was printed out in outline format, because then someone wouldn't have to like, say if you have pages and pages of a report, you're going to forget, oh, what does this third column represent again, or fourth column? Or what if you had 15 columns, or if you had more than that? Someone's going to forget, right? So outline would be better in that case, because then they can, every time they get to a new section, they look up like, oh, that's what this is for. So just depends on what type of report you're printing, which of these you would select. And you can, and here's the best part about this, and what I usually tell people with the wizard and with reports period is to play around with it. Maybe like write down a couple things write down the fields that you want, and then go through the wizard and see how it builds it when you do different things. That's a great way to learn how to use Access, to be honest. Like I'm explaining these, and I'm explaining it based off of honestly, I'm explaining it based off my experiences, because that's how I really learned it. Like I got a book. Okay, great. I can read through the book. I learn a lot from that. But the ways I actually like fully understand what these look like and why they're set up the way they are is because I played with it so much, and not just from teaching this class either, but just really just playing with it, just because. And that's the best way that you can learn how to use it. To be perfectly honest with you all, just looking at the way you all are doing now, I feel that this class is done best with Access than any other class I've seen. And I also feel that you all are going much more above and beyond Access than you did in any of the other assignments. Some of you did it always, but majority of you are really like, I'm not going to do the bare minimum with Access. I'm going to do multiple queries. I'm going to do multiple different types of forms and turn them in early because I want to see what he says about it. Does it look nice? I'm going to do a bunch of tables. I'm going to just do 2 tables, but I'm going to make a lot more connections between them than when I build a relationship. Or, I'm going to build just 2 tables, but I'm going to have a bunch of fields in it. And you guys are really, really doing really well with the understanding of how things are laid out. And I can tell that you're planning it before you start doing it. So that's just really great to see. But keep playing with this stuff because it can be fun. I mean, you have an opportunity to enter a job force. But like, I actually do have experience with Access, and I've done a lot of things with it. Let me show you what I can do. Show them a database you made. Show them the database you made for this class. All right. So now we also get the option of orientation, portrait landscape. This can be changed later though. And this checkbox here, adjust the field width so that fields fit on a page. This is always great. As you saw what we had beforehand, how they did not all fit on the one page. But again, you can modify it afterwards. So that's it. Now you can do the title that you want. I'm just gonna call this Pokemon Stats Stuff. All right. See you later. All right. So now we can just preview it or look at it in design view, but we can always switch to design view. So I'm gonna just look at it right now. See what we have. All right, so there we go. So it did it all by their different types. So notice we got bug type here. We got dark type here. Oops. Do it this way, it can be easier to see. I just changed the view just to make it easier to see. So we have bug type, we have dark type, we have the fire types, we have the grass types, psychic type, water types. So notice they're all grouped by their types. Then, like I said, next thing would be the Pokemon's name. Notice we only have, we'll go to the good one. Fire, we have multiple different ones. So notice how it steps down and lists all of them. Okay. And this is what I was talking about. Like, look at the top. That's the only place where you can see the field names. So in this case, it probably would have actually been better if we had actually did outline view, because then these would be above each one. So that way, as you keep going down, you don't forget where am I. But again, this is all printing out on one page, so they should be able to see this very easily. Has their weaknesses and then has their base stat type. So, and it is taking the average of them. So if there was multiple Blastoises, Blastoises, plural Blastoises. But anyway, if we had multiple of them, it would take the average of them there, their base stats. And then after that, we get our second type. So there's one created from the wizard. And yeah, so I could go change it to the layout view. And we could modify where certain things are if we wanted to. For instance, this guy is not showing enough leg room. This guy has a little more, so I'm gonna do this. That way we can at least see that it's the base stat. Okay. So as you can see, you can modify these from here as well. So one thing to remember, sometimes people, especially with forms and reports, there's more views. You can make changes to things in layout view and design view. Layout view, just like we saw with forms, you actually see the data in it though. So just keep that in mind. Don't go try to manipulate the data in layout view, but it is there. I'm talking about forms really, but because report, you're not going to be, well, I guess you could technically still go in and start typing things. So just be careful. Design view, let's take a look at what that looks like, because that's how we would build things if we were to do it from design view. Looks similar to form, where we can pull over the different fields. Yeah, honestly, that's really all I got to say. But we are able to pull over these fields and then tell it where our headers are going to go for it, so it knows where to put the information for it. But it's very, 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 very similar to what we just did in forms. So yeah, actually, we'll do one in that. We'll do one based off design view. But before we do that, I just wanted to see if there were any questions from anyone about the wizard, using the wizard to do it.
So, is it easier to do it on the wizard than it is straight from report design?
From report design, yes, but from just doing a report, I would say no. And so a report is going to give you everything from your table. So it all depends on what you want to see in the report too. So a report is going to give you everything from the table or query that you selected, right? When you just click report, it just spits it out. If you do the wizard, you have more control about what is seen. Like for instance, see how I'm summarizing the data. I'm able to do averages, sums, and things like that. This allows me to do that. I'm also able to manipulate how this is grouped a lot easier using the wizard, as opposed to the other one. I would have had to go select the column, do groups and sorts, and then make the change myself. It's easier to see it through the wizard. I want to say that's to me that's really it. Just be able to group things and change the priorities and things like that. is a lot easier in the wizard than it is by just clicking on report. Because then if you just click on report, you have to make the change now yourself. But if you're just clicking a very simple report, you just want to show them, hey, here's the data that we had, and do some basic aggregations. Like I just want to take the sum of these columns, the averages of these columns, things like that. Report's easy. You're done. One and done. If you want to do a little bit more, I say use the wizard. If you are not sure kind of what you want to do, but you want to just kind of play around with it, actually, let me take it back. In a professional sense, if you don't want either of those things, you're very specific about what you want, I would use design, because then you are specifically saying where you want things to appear on your report and your design the way it looks. And most people in the professional world, that's exactly what they do. Because do you want it to always look the same bland way? No, you're going to want to add your logos. You want to maybe add a couple of different things into it. Uh, so yeah. Um, okay. All right. Well, yeah, let's do one in design view. Any other questions? All right. So quick. Okay. Okay. So there's a question about changing the record on the form assignment. So let's do one real quick. So up here, say the type is not grass poison. I say it's like, I'm gonna call it toxic. So I just made a change directly on the form. And actually, if I open up my Pokemon stats table, there's my Bulbasaur. There's my type 2. It still says poison, right? I just made this change here. So if I were to save this change over here, look at it now. I could click refresh if I need to. Sometimes you'll have to click refresh, but now it appears in my Pokemon stats table, that change I just made. That's what I mean by change the record on the form. Okay. You're welcome. That was one thing you had to do with the form. The other thing was you had to create a new instance, so a new record. So if I just click like new blank record here, or if I clicked it up there, now notice like some things are even zeroed out because it's a brand new instance. I don't know what number we're on, but I could put in something here. I don't remember if this is Psyduck or Golduck. I'm just gonna, some of you out there probably correct me on it. What a type. Psychic abilities. He's over 9,000. He is 9,000. No, he's got to be over 9,000. I'm gonna say he's 1 foot tall. It's funny. And he weighs like 35 kilograms. He's a skinny duck. So I save that new record. Go over here. I can't even refresh this one then. Now Golduck's in here. So that's what I mean by add a new record. So those are the two things that you should do. There should be a new record, and there should also be a change made. Yep. Cool. Good question. Keep them coming. All right. So I just clicked on design. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to very slowly add each just a couple of things. So let's just say I want the national Pokemon. And I'm gonna put the Pokemon here. And let's see, that's it. I'm not gonna go to layout view. See what this looks like. So very similar when we did the form, right? We put things over, we can make adjustments to it, the way it looks and stuff, and this is what comes out. Okay. Notice that it should go for each one. There it is, okay. So it's putting literally each one underneath it. But look at all that extra space that's wasted in between each one. But I can build the report this way. And if I wanted to say, for instance, to look at each one separately, this is exactly what I would be able to do. So go back to design view. If I wanted to, come on, I could even bring this down here to my details. Now I can see what it looks like there. And again, we'll have multiple of these guys. Just looking at each record separately. Okay. I feel like that's pretty much it. I just want to show you the basics so that you're doing the same thing like you did in a form. You're just pulling over the different data that you want to see. Yeah, don't really have anything else really to show you with that, honestly. Get really specific about it by making it all stacked together. You could make it become tabular if you wanted to. But that's honestly pretty much it. Bring over what you want to see, put it in the spot you want to see. You can, if you have, like in this case, I had multiple things selected. I was able to make it tabular. That I can do the grid line. See both. Makes it look more like kind of like how Excel looks with the different cells. But that's pretty much it. Just being perfectly honest, it's going to be very similar to everything else that you've done already. Just bring in what you want to bring in. You get more specific here because you're also telling it where you want it to be from the beginning. So if you want to design the way the form should, you want to design the way the report should look, period, this is what you should go for. You should go for doing it in design view or blank view and just building it from scratch. Pulling over the fields you want, you get to decide exactly where it goes. So, questions about reports?
So we should only have one report on both of our tables, or just the one?
So I'll get to the assignment now. Then, you're only going to have one report, and you're just going to tell me. You're going to summarize it, pretty much in your comments. You're going to summarize what does it tell me. So you just create a report. That's it. It can be based on one of your tables or queries. If you want to create it and it's based on both your tables, that's fine too. It's completely up to you, but there should only be one report, or I shouldn't say should only be. You only need one report on your database that you turn in. If you have multiple, fine with me. So again, have fun with it. Play around with it. But you should really only need one page. Some of you have a lot of data, so if you have more than one page, I will completely understand. Others of you, if you change this back. If you turn in something that looked like, I go back all the way. Where did I change it? You turn in something that looked like this to me. Oh. And then fit on one page, I'd be concerned of why it looks like that. That's what I would be concerned with. Or where it was like split across multiple pages a lot. I would be concerned with that, especially if you have very little data. But if you have more, if you have a bunch, I'm okay with that. But things should fairly fit on one page. I don't think anyone had any. So you only had like 5 fills, so you could even change the landscape, and then like the width wise, things should at least fit on one page based off when I'm thinking about everyone's um, fills they created. Things should be able to fit. If yours don't if yours does not and it's justifiable, then I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm not gonna mark off for it. But if you turn in like what I just showed you, if you turn in something like that, then you'll be taken off for your data not really fitting on the page because it won't make sense. But once you create that, you'll upload your database to Canvas. Uh, and explain in the comments what your report conveys. Because remember, the whole point of it is to kind of do some type of analysis. For instance, with this report here, like this report tells me the national ID Pokedex entry for each of the Pokemon listed. That's what it does. Does your national ID number? Does it Pokemon? Does it for each one of those? If I were to look at some of my other ones, this tells me all of the data from the Pokemon stats table. This tells me all of my Pokemon that I have, but groups them based off of their primary type. It also displays their weaknesses and gives an average of their base stats with the added bonus of the second type. You're just explaining what's there and what you can learn from it. So I've had people do this and they get very specific about what they learn from this. Their analysis is actually pretty cool to see. But it's just telling me what is your report convey? What does it do? What does it tell you? Because if you created something, there should be a purpose behind it. And with these, there were some purposes, even if it's just a quick way to show data I have for this table. Okay. So first 2 points is pretty much using Access. So if you use Access, I see a report, 5 points, 5 points. That's 10 points right there. Actually, 15 because you create a report. Layout. So things should fit appropriately in your report. So that's so small, like making things one page. If you have columns that are too wide, too much white space, might be unnecessary. If you want to center it, there's different modifications you may want to make to it. I mentioned logos, pictures, and watermarks. You could do that as well. And then the last part in your comments in Canvas, just give analysis or report. What does it say? What's the purpose of it? Why is it here? So, is it for your assignment? Question about your assignment or access period. Okay, so again, this assignment, it can be based on just one table. It doesn't have to. So look at the first report second report I created wasn't based off of just one table. I pulled in data from both tables. You can do it from a query too, which the query could be based off multiple tables. So I don't want you to think that it has to be your assignment has to be based off one table. No, that's the minimum. For well, yeah, that's the minimum. Just think about it. If you just click one click report, pretty much you're done. You just got to explain what it does now and maybe change some of the layout. But yeah, that's all you would need to do. Again, you have multiple tables. You may want to convey just that one table. You maybe want to convey the relationship that's there between them. So maybe you'll use the wizard, or you'll do it from design view and make it so that it can be very easy to see and convey what it is that you want to convey. You can analyze what you need to analyze. So, like, what's the best Yu-Gi-Oh card? If you did Yu-Gi-Oh database, it can be based on one table. It can be based on multiple tables. Completely up to you. The last couple of assignments have been pretty open. Yeah, you'll see that throughout. Other question. Okay. All right. Other questions? Okay. So, that's it then for today. I will stop recording.